The reason that I would suggest that there is such high violence rate in the black community is specifically now because you have a culture where there are young black men growing up with no fathers in the home. But the black middle class was growing actually pretty quickly in the 1950s, and then in the 1960s, a couple of different things happened that really trashed the system. One was the welfare system said, unfortunately, to black fathers and black mothers, that you are better off if you actually don't stay in the home. You get benefits that increase if the father leaves, right? And then that creates an incentive to single motherhood, which is seriously problematic because the government can't be daddy, right? Only father can really be daddy. And then, beyond that, there is a long history, and this has been maintained. And this is where I will agree that there is quote unquote white privilege, but not now. So it used to be white privilege, and now it's actually a lefty argument. So the white privilege was, and this is true, that white police forces did not police inner city black communities or southern black communities. So when black people killed each other, the white police forces just said, fine, go ahead and kill each other. Like, really, this is true historically. Right? White police forces did not police black communities. So there's a...
What do you think about that, Phil? Was that true at one point in time?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
See, this is another thing. The sides just they trade places over time. And it's because of the thing that's the key to it now is this liberal conservative distillation. Because all liberal and conservative means is conservative is just traditionalist, don't change it because it, if it's working, keep it. And liberal is just more. Like you liberally put jelly on your peanut butter sandwich. That means a lot.
Yeah.
So now liberal just means a lot of government. It just, in whatever it is, it doesn't, there's no, the one area where it doesn't mean more is the military. More counterfeiting, more welfare, more promises that nobody can keep, more ridiculous regulations, increasing the cost of everything, higher minimum wages, even though that's just an absolute freaking canard in an inflationary environment where you've got a Federal Reserve that can just summon money out of nowhere. Why in the world anybody promotes that? Oh my God. I'm so tired of these particular little freaking detailed discussions of the spokes of these giant freaking wheels, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna put a card in the spoke up here. Listen to it go. Whatever. Okay,
that was a great card.
Now you've
Sound
masturbated
effect.
for 10 minutes and listened to the card. Now what? Oh. Well, it's right. You weren't actually talking about anything. You just made a noisemaker out of a wheel and a card. So he's not doing anything. He's not accomplishing anything.
The person asking the question or Shapiro?
Either one of them.
Yeah.
Because what do you end up with at the end? You end up with a bunch of angry retards in the crowd who think that Ben Shapiro's a racist, and Ben Shapiro thinking that, wow, man, he really crushed the libtards by telling them something about the policing of black neighborhoods in the past that they had no idea about because they don't know anything about anything. You could just do a symposium on the design of pancake labels from the past century. That would convey as much information as he's conveying right now. So let's listen. Let's let him finish being completely ineffective.
Lack of law enforcement in the black community. And so people break down. This is true in any tribal society where you don't have law enforcement or any overarching justice system. Right? So it's not unique to American blacks. This is true wherever there is no real justice system. People tend to take justice into their own hands. You end up with retaliatory killings.
When there is no real justice system, people tend to take justice into their own hands.
We had an overarching justice system the entire time. So that doesn't even make sense, what he just said there. So what he's saying, that the black neighborhoods had no justice system?
So they saw justicing themselves?
Well...
No, there was a justice system. There just wasn't anyone enforcing it.
And
right?
You could have waited for individuals in those neighborhoods to identify with the methodology. See, that's what led to the golden age of Islam in the Arab world, was that they recognized that they suffered a deficit in how they didn't know how to run a city. basically what they did is they charged the Jews and the Christians that they had captured, the ones that were running the cities. They basically just had them keep their positions, but then took all the booty from the taxes and whatever, and then
treat me like a pirate, and give me that booty.
And then forced a bunch of ridiculous shit down on those people, as far as the tributes and the weird day-to-day ritualistic shit they made people adhere to or whatever. But any population can do that. It's like, oh, well, let's look around. Boy, we're really killing ourselves a lot. Maybe we should do something. And but they're not. Maybe. They probably. I'm guessing that if you look back into it, on a detail level, going back to biographies of people like the first black cops in those neighborhoods or whatever, that those people were probably prevented by the overarching justice system from doing anything for themselves. And he wants to, this is what's so irritating. He wants to sit there and say that if we characterize the political authority the right way, then everything works. Even when somebody like Ben Shapiro gets his way in an election, it still devolves into another election where the same shitty people could decide to do something completely different. Mm-hmm. None of this is law. That's another thing that these people just irritate me to no end about. It's legislation. It's rule making. It's not the discovery of a relationship that dictates results. See, everything they do is in opposition to that, which is why it's so easy to predict the deleterious impacts of what they do. Like anybody who understands even the simplest explanation of supply and demand understands why the minimum wage is pure bullshit at any level. But how many, what portion of the population can actually absorb that truth?
There needs to be $15 minimum wage.
They can't do it.
Phil, there needs to be $15 minimum wage.
And
all right, let's finish that. It's almost 5:00 here.
Yeah.
So let's get through it. Let's finish the video, and then we'll have final comments.
All over the place, which is what happened. That was true all the way until the 1960s. And then in the 70s and 80s, when the crime wave really started to hit, right between 1960 and 1994, the violent crime rate in the United States multiplied by 400%, right? 400%. And when that happened, there was a real crackdown. I would say that what's happening now is not white privilege. What I would say is that, Jim Crow created terrible systems of law, and those systems of law allowed cultures to flourish that were violent and problematic. And then that was exacerbated by the federal government getting involved and under-policing. And now, when we actually have a situation where the police want to go in and clean things up, now the left has insisted that not happen. So that's not, I don't count that as white privilege. I call it, my problem with the term white privilege as a general rule is that it's too vague. What I just laid out for you is a relatively specific narrative with actual cures.
And that's
right. White privilege does suggest that there's some cabal of white people out there saying, I want black people to die. I don't think that's true. Right? I think that there are laws that were on the books that are racist.